Hi there, Laura Cook here, and today we're continuing our 5-part series where we're looking at transitioning you from having a part-time business to becoming 100% an entrepreneur in 2019. And we're walking through the major shifts that you're going to work through as you go along that journey. So today we're on part two, and part two is all about that huge sensation that you realize your savings are rapidly dwindling and disappearing, and you can feel like your business becomes this giant money pit. So having made that huge leap, that massive transition from being somebody who has a part-time business with a stable, consistent salary to becoming full-time, 100% committed in your business, you become so conscious, so conscious, more than you probably ever have before, that money is slipping through your fingers. Your savings are probably starting to dwindle. You're aware you no longer pay into a pension, so you haven't got that longer term security and nest egg that you're building up for the future. Maybe you're struggling to see how you're going to clear down any debts, and maybe they're growing. And you're very crystal sharp aware that you're earning less than you were earning when you still had your salary, but you're also spending an awful lot more than you ever have before. And nobody should have to suffer the stress and the worry and anxiety of not having enough left at the end of each and every month. And that's why today we're really going to talk about how you can start to plug those money leaks inside your business, and most importantly as well, inside your life once and for all, so that you can successfully navigate this transition to a point where you're making more than enough income in your business to fully pay for your business and your lifestyle. The problem is, and why this is so important to me, is that when cash feels so tight, it can massively keep you awake at night. It causes you so much stress, so much anxiety. And one of the ways that it becomes really obvious, a really simple way, is that you don't want to open your bank statements. You just pile them up on the side of your desk unopened, and when you look at them, it just fills you with a sense of dread, because you know and you're anticipating that you're already overdrawn, or that the credit card bills are even bigger than they potentially were last month. And whether you're somebody who spends a lot, so as soon as your money comes in, you keep spending it, and it goes out as soon as quickly as it comes in, or you're somebody who holds really tight control and you're trying to feel a sense of control around money by really tightening your grip and not spending a penny. Trust me, money really doesn't have to be so stressful for you as you work your way through this transition. You don't need to feel like money is this out of control, like it's just leaking out of your business, and it feels like it's as impossible to hold on to as a cup or a handful of water. There really is another way, and that is what we're going to walk through and we're going to talk through today. So we're going to look at how you can plug these money leaks, and it's a 4-step process we're going to talk through today. So bear with us, stay with us as we walk through each of these stages. So the first step is to get our heads around what the heck is an actual money leak. Well, a money leak is any amount of money that mysteriously disappears and we have no idea what we spent it on or where it's gone, or we spent it on something that we didn't use and we didn't need. So we've all had these experiences where we take out 20, 50 quid out of an ATM, put it in our purse, and then a few hours or days later, we're like, where has that money gone? And it's not that somebody's stolen it from us, but we've spent it without realizing, without being conscious or mindful about where that money has gone. Or maybe we've made a purchase. I mean, I certainly know in the past, several years ago, I was, certainly this was something I did quite frequently, is I would go shopping and I would buy clothes that in the moment felt really great and I loved. But as soon as I got them home, I was like, nothing to wear with this, nowhere to actually wear it. And they would stay in my wardrobe for weeks, months, possibly even years, with the tag still on it. So purchases that I just never needed and never actually used and never enjoyed. Or maybe you've got an inbox full of courses and programs that you signed up to, but you've never ever logged into them, so you've never got any value or benefit from those courses. Now, trust me, I am guilty of these things too. I am not perfect in any form. Now, when we can't remember where the money's gone, or we've never even used whatever it is we purchased, it really is time to get very honest with ourselves and ask, did we really need that? Did we really need it? Now, before we go any further, I just want to say I'm not at all advocating that you need to deprive yourself and you need to cut back to the bare bone and scrimp and save. All we're talking about today is just getting really, really clear on what is important for you to spend money on and what isn't important for you to spend money on. Because I truly believe that living and feeling an abundant life and a wealthy life is certainly not going to come from a place of deprivation. So that is not what we're advocating today. So that is step one, getting really clear on that you understand what a money leak is. So step two, we said that these money leaks are mysterious. So money is mysteriously disappearing. So now we need to become what I'd say is an awesome money detective. And whether you want to be old school and think about Hercule Poirot or Sherlock Holmes, personally, my favorite detective is Inspector Gadget, but that is a story for another day. Either way, we need to get on a clear mission and we need to start looking for clues as to what is going on for us. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to track where all of your money goes. And the aim of this is to basically just shine a light on where your money mysteriously vanishes to. And once we're really clear on where it's going, we can start to begin to take a bit more control over it and we can become a lot more intentional about those spending decisions. Now, I don't want you to go running for the hills. This is not major scary, but I urge you to really stay with me. Now, a lot of people want to avoid taking a good look at reality and what is actually going on and dive simply back under the duvet and bury their head. And I want to ask you, how is continuing to avoid where you're spending your money going to help stress and anxiety that money is bringing up for you? How is it going to help that to actually go away? Now, the smart and intelligent businesswoman that you are knows that avoidance is really not the solution. So take a look at what we're talking about today and try another way, because I'm sure that you've noticed that avoiding this is really not helping you. So the way that I personally track where I spend money is that simply I never pay for anything in cash. I mean, in this day and age, you can pay for everything on a card. You don't really ever need to have cash unless you go to a store or a seller where their till and their card machine's broken. It's so incredibly rare that you need cash these days. But what that means is when you spend everything on your card, is that on your bank statement, you're constantly going to have everything recorded, every single little thing, from a tiny cup of coffee to a coaching program you maybe sign up to. Everything is going to be recorded from inside your business and inside your life. So you no longer have this sense of these ambiguous £50 that you've withdrawn from an ATM and have no idea where that £50 disappeared to. And maybe that happens each week for you. So that's £200 over a month. You've no idea where it goes to because you pull it out of an ATM and spend on cash. Now, if you're somebody who does prefer to spend with cash and that's what you're used to, then instead, the way you can start to track is to literally collect all of your receipts. So every time you spend money, make sure you get a receipt, pop it in your purse, and when you get home, put it in a box. And just over a month, collect all of your receipts, pull them all together, and just keep them all in one place so that we can review them and pull them together. Or if you're somebody who knows you're very, very disciplined and you don't want to collect receipts, you could create and have a notebook or create a Google Doc and literally write them out as and when you spend it, but you have to do it in the moment or you will forget to do it. And all we're aiming for is to track every single penny you spend, predominantly in your business, but also in your life, because these, at the moment, as you're transitioning, these things in your money, it becomes so intertwined that it's a prime time to look at both situations. So the aim is to track everything for at least a month. So I would ask you now to make that commitment to yourself and to begin doing this from today, and to literally track everything going forward and just decide which method you want to use. Spend everything on your card, track it in a Google Doc, or collect all of your receipts in a box and add them all up at the end of each month. So that's step two. It's all about tracking and looking for clues as to where your money is mysteriously disappearing. So the third step that we're going to look at is really to review all the evidence. So we're playing detective. We're going to discover who is responsible for basically the murder. Think of it as a murder mystery. And so at the end of each month, we're going to collect all of the clues. So all of the transactions on your bank statement, all of the receipts that are in your shoebox that you've collected, and you're going to pull out any Google Doc that you may have also prepared. We're going to pull all of that together. And now, if you haven't already in this process felt a little bit of resistance, which I'm pretty sure I can pretty much guarantee you felt some sense of resistance as we've been talking, you very likely will now. That there is often a huge amount of resistance, a sense of guilt or shame that comes up for people when you're forced to stare at the reality of what you've been spending. Now, most people really avoid doing this activity. So really, you're doing absolutely great just by being here, just by listening to this, and just by starting to make the commitment to do this, because so many people avoid it and never actually address the stress and anxiety that money is bringing into their life. Now, personally, I redid this exercise very soon after I became an entrepreneur, after I quit my corporate job. And I was really shocked to find that there were several £100s worth of money leaks going on for me inside my life and inside my business. And there's something about this massive transition you're making. In fact, and it doesn't have to be just starting a business. You could have just bought a new house or had a baby, some massive life-changing transition where money just starts to run away with us, and our kind of underlying habits of around spending start to resurface, and we can start to feel like money rapidly becomes out of control. Now, for me, when I did this, there was just no escaping the fact that I needed to start to curb more of my spending. And I was spending on certain wasteful things like subscriptions to really expensive email systems, when at that point in time, I just didn't even have a list. I didn't need something so complicated, but it was the best. It was the best email system that was proposed and recommended to me, so I just signed up for it. But it was so expensive. I was also members of various networks, but I never had time to attend them all. I never had time to attend the events of all these networks. I was spending a huge amount on traveling and on parking fees, going to network with individuals that lived 30 to 40 miles away, instead of just arranging to have like an online video call with somebody as a first meeting, and then maybe meeting them in person a second time, or at a networking event where I could have met a few people at the same time. And I also started to collect, and I say collect, online courses, cheap PDF documents, things that felt like quick wins that I would learn a lot, and it would be the thing that would move my business forward. I felt like it was very necessary for me to learn everything, and I needed to know everything, and that one thing would make the massive difference to me. So I started to collect all of these documents and really short courses where you didn't get any actual direct help or support. Now, only when I started to become more aware of what I was doing, I started to track it, and I started to look at how I felt about those purchases, was I able to start to shift my spending. And I was able to actually shift my spending on things that truly were important to me. So I was able to start using my money instead of on things that were wasteful, but actually on more things that were important to me, like going to more yoga classes, which helped to really calm and relax me during such a stressful transition in my life, to be able to travel more with my husband, and to do more sensible things like actually start to build up a personal pension pot. Now, a really big tip for you when you are doing this, when you have printed out your bank statements, you've got your Google document, and you've got all your receipts in front of you, is not to just consider how much money in total you spent on online courses, on your morning cups of coffee on the way to the office, but to literally think about how did those purchases make you feel. So maybe, for example, you spend £4 or £5 every day on a cup of coffee and a snack on the way to the office. Now, the question is, does that make you happy? Does it put a spring in your step? Do you feel great after you've had that cup of coffee? Or do you end up half an hour or an hour later with a headache from all the caffeine? And do you spend the rest of the day feeling guilty because you had extra whipped cream on top of the coffee, and you now feel guilty for all the calories? So think about that purchase, not just in the moment, but how it made you feel for the rest of the day or the week if it was a bigger purchase, and how much benefit it brought to your life. And what I want you to do is just think about how everything makes you feel, every single transaction, everything you spent your money on, because it's so important that we're intentional about how we spend, and we're not. I don't want us to deprive ourselves, but it's important to spend on things that make a positive impact for us and they're not wasteful for us. So go ahead, and for step 3, I want you to literally work through every item and mark down how you made it feel. So you might want to use a colored highlighters for this. So you could use a green highlighter, for example, for purchases that made you feel great, happy, expansive, and relaxed. Maybe a yellow one for something that it was okay, or maybe it's something you have to pay for. Maybe it's your utility bills or the cost of your office. And then use a red highlighter for things that felt wasteful, that left you feeling guilty or ashamed, and where your body really tensed up just at the thought of it and the memory of it as you look back. Now, maybe this feels really difficult and challenging for you, and if you're looking for more support as you work your way through this kind of process, keep an eye out, because I am about to launch a new program, which is 90 days to getting money clarity, where I'm going to personally support and walk with you through this journey, and to really quickly get you confident and clear about your money as you're making these major transitions in your life, so that you can be confidently tracking and confident about your cash flow as you navigate such massive transition into entrepreneurship once that certainty of the salary has disappeared. Okay, so step 4 is next. And step 4 is all about looking at your patterns. So what is driving your spending behavior? And I want you to look back over all of the items you've marked, but I want you to focus on the items you marked red. So on the items that made you constrict, that made you feel some sort of negative emotion, negative memory, you're unhappy, you feel like it was a waste of money spending it on those items. And I want you to look at those. So look at those red items. So your body will have very likely constricted in a way, and maybe you can associate it. If you're not quite sure what that means, think about somebody scratching their nails on a chalkboard. Like, how does that just make you tense up and cringe? That's, for me, the worst sound in the world, and I hear that sound for days afterwards, and it just makes my skin crawl and my body tense up so much. So if you have that kind of negative reaction to something you've spent money on, that's what you should be marking red, and that is what we're talking about right now. So for all of those items that made you feel like that and you marked red, ask yourself these 2 questions. The first one: was somebody else involved in that decision to spend that money? Often I find that when you're uncomfortable with a decision, when a decision to spend money doesn't sit right with you, it's actually somebody else's decision and not yours. So take a look and identify whether was it really your decision, or did somebody else have involvement in that purchase? And just more generally, what were the circumstances around that decision? Maybe there's a particular reason you had to spend money on that. Maybe you felt under pressure. Maybe you'd had a bereavement in your family and you just weren't particularly maybe in the right mind space to make the best decision at that time. And sometimes that's okay. So just become aware of what were the circumstances of making that decision. So the second part we're going to look at, so we've looked at all the reds, so that's one extreme, the extreme that made us feel really uncomfortable. We're going to look now at all the greens, so all the purchases that made us feel great, they felt expansive, they lifted us up, we felt really happy. And if you're not sure what this feels like, so I want you to imagine maybe how you feel when you look at a baby or a cute little puppy, little furry animals. Like, how does it just lift you up and make you smile? The total innocence and blissfulness of that experience. And for those items that you mark green that gave you that uplifting feeling, I want you to think again, were you buying something for someone else, for someone you love? Because often, certainly as women, we get a lot of enjoyment out of using our money to support other people, to gift things to other people, to help benefit other people's lives. And the second question is to, again, just more generally think about what was the circumstance around you making those spending decisions. Now, it's at this point of the year, we're so close to Christmas. Often it can be a mix. So it can be a mix of these two, that we want to spend money to make other people happy, but we can overspend. So we can end up spending too much on gifts and things like that. So there could be situations like that where it's a very conflicting, and they're really, really interesting to hone in on. So really get clear on the circumstances behind why you made a purchase and how they made you feel, and look for any patterns. So now we've addressed and looked at the reds and the greens, we want to look at everything overall and identify, are there any patterns? Do you see any common themes cropping up? Are there any triggers that you notice, like things going on? Like, do you walk past a particular coffee shop and you always have to go in and buy a coffee from there? Do you spend more money when you're walking through town on the way, like on the way home from a meeting or something like that? Are there particular scenarios or situations where you spend more money? Are there particular situations, like maybe you've had some bad news and you go out and spend lots of money? Are there things that have happened through your month that you can see as a pattern? And I would write those down. But the most important thing out of anything we talk about today is I would like you to take away is how good, how amazing it can feel when you spend money on the things that have aligned to you, the things that make you feel good. So what you may notice is the proportion of items that made you feel like that you mark green, might be very, very low. Now, if that is the case, that's okay. We just want to tune in to how they made you feel and how great they made you feel. And we want to start to address the balance, because that is really what money is truly for. It's about us using it in a way that feels great and of benefit to us. Okay, so that's perfect. So we've been through all 4 stages now, and I really want to iterate that money doesn't have to be stressful. Having been so incredibly brave to have made that transition from having a part-time or a full-time job to becoming full-time as an entrepreneur, you really don't want to feel like money just now feels out of control and brings up so much stress and anxiety for you. You really, really can feel confident about the money that you're spending, about how you're using your savings, and become more comfortable knowing when any debts you have are going to be cleared. Now, implementing these 4 steps, so identifying what money leaks are, tracking where the money is going, which, like I say, you want to probably track your life and your business because they're so intertwined when you go through a major transition like this. The third one was reflecting on how those purchases made you feel and looking at how much you kind of spent in total categories. And finally, the 4th one is to look at your money patterns and identifying really what are the patterns around how that money just magically disappears. Now, once you start to implement these, you very, very soon will feel like your stress levels start to reduce. You're no longer going to feel like money is just so out of control and slipping through your fingers. And you're going to start to become a lot more intentional about where you're spending your money. And most importantly, you won't feel like you're chronically depriving yourself. This is really not about going on some sort of extreme money version of the Atkins diet. And all of this is going to lead you to a place where you're going to feel a lot more confident, a lot more empowered, which is going to mean that you have a ton of extra energy, because all that stress and anxiety drains the energy right out of you. And with that extra energy, you're going to be able to devote so much more time and energy to actually focusing on revenue generating activities inside your business and start to rapidly bring more money into your business. And at the same time, because you're becoming much more intentional about where you spend money and spending more money on those things that make you happy and you enjoy, and spending less on wasteful things, you're actually going to end up naturally having more and more money left in your bank account at the end of each and every month. So money really will become much less stressful for you. Now, like I say, if you're looking for more support with this, if you feel like you need some hand holding with this, and you want to rapidly implement some of these changes into your life and into your business and really make them stick, then do watch out for my up and coming 90 Days to Money Clarity program, which I will be sharing more information about in the coming week. And I'll personally be able to support you together to really make a difference with your money and to really reduce the stress and anxiety it's having on you. So until then, have a fantastic week, and I hope that you'll join me for the third part in this series, which is going to be coming out next week. Until then, bye.